विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तितीर्थ स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते कृष्णपादाय प्रभुपादश्रितात्मने गौरकरुणा शक्ति भक्तितीर्थ नामिने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते गौरगोविंद स्वामिनिति नामिने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वदेवं गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादं पाश्यते देशतारिणे नमो नमो अनिरुद्धाय ऋषिकेश इंद्रियात्मने नमः परमहंसाय पूर्णाय निवृत्तात्मने स्वर्गापवर्गद्वाराय नित्यं शुचिसदे नमः नमः हिरण्यवीर्याय चातुर्होत्राय कान्तवे Hare Krishna, thank you for joining us. So I would just like to quickly recap the session that we had last night so that we could continue further, as today is a continuation of the last night's session. So some of you are newcomers to today's session, so I just want to quickly touch upon it. So we looked at the construction or more of an analytical study of human existence, and the analytical study is called Sankhya. So Sankhya Shastra, which is in Sanskrit, we analytically observe and reach conclusions on what ought to be done and what not to be done, and where is everything placed, and through that we come to an understanding of our self-realization and our position. So in that, the human body is compared to a chariot. The passenger in the chariot is the Atma, the soul. The charioteer, the driver of the chariot, is intelligence. The reins which the charioteer holds on to is the mind, and the horses are the senses. So normally there are 5 horses. So the sense of smell, the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the sense of taste, and the sense of touch. These are 5 senses in the 5 horses. So our purpose is to be able to see as to how is it that we are puppets when we are born in this world. How is it that there are forces above which are practically moving us around without our knowledge, or sometimes we find ourselves quite helpless. So we want to be able to understand this particular phenomenon as to what is our nature and how we are being used, and what is the observation of how to relieve ourselves of this particular external influence and be able to move forward. So we want to be able to observe it. That is the objective of the course. But first we need to understand the horses are the senses. And these horses, they're completely out of control, and they are observing their objects, because each horse is attached to an object which it considers very wonderful and considers it its goal. It is proceeding towards that goal. The eyes are seeing and they're appreciating something, and they're saying, this is the way I should go. And then the ears, they're hearing and they're proceeding in that direction. So the 5 horses are being either collectively in different directions, or then they are being dominated by one or the other. So they're going on their own. The passenger, which is the Atma, has no control. The horses have control. They are going astray, which is the reason why some of us at certain times in our life, we feel that we have no control over life. There's a perception sometimes that we have control. Sometimes we also feel that I have no control over my life. It's almost as if something is taken over and I'm just going in that direction. That something which is taking over are the senses in general. Because it is through the senses that we observe and collect knowledge. We see, we hear, we speak, we touch, we collect knowledge through the senses. The knowledge is then processed and we take decisions. So our entire life is subject to these senses and their actions. If one does not know how to control them, if one does not know the path of purification of these senses, our decisions, which are based on information collected by these defective senses, would be wrong, and we would suddenly find ourselves in a position in life where we might feel quite lost, or we might feel as if we don't want to be here, we want to move away. This is very critical for us to understand. Now, let's go on, and we will go on to see the next level of mapping. We are now going deeper and deeper into the control factors into our body. How are we controlled by nature? What is it which happens to us, and how is it that we are motivated, not motivated? So we will go into the next level. The next level is that the nose, for example, the 5 senses have 5 functions. The nose has the ability to smell, and it is considered to be the earth element. So, one step before this. Our entire existence, entire material creation, can fundamentally be broken down into 5 elements. The entire material creation, it doesn't matter if the planetary systems above our Earth are subtle or they are below Earth and they are more gross. It doesn't matter which level they are considered to be composed of either gross or subtle 5 elements. So everybody who is into some level of yoga these days, some level of browsing on the internet, they all understand that there are 5 elements. So the first fundamental element, which is the gross element, which can be felt, which can be smelled, which can be seen, which can be heard, all of this is contained in the earth element. So it is the final stage of manifestation of matter. This gross element is the earth element. Okay? So how do we recognize earth? Anybody? When there's fresh rains on earth, especially if you visited India, earth would give out a certain smell. So we recognize that earth has odor. It has odor. The next step of the element of which we are made of is water. Does water have any smell? It doesn't. Technically, there is no smell unless you add some chlorine and something like that. There really isn't any smell for water. But how do we recognize water? How do we recognize water?
Taste.
Exactly. So we taste water and we recognize water. So water does not have the quality of smell which earth has, but water has the quality of taste. Earth has got taste and smell. Water does not have smell. You can't really figure out water through the nose. You have to taste it to understand that this is the quality of water. Water has taste. Can you see water? Yes, we can see water. Can you feel water? Yes. Does water have sound? There's a waterfall. It can make some amount of sound. So water does contain akash. It contains air. It contains the fire element, which is you can see. Because there is fire in water, you are able to see it. If there is no fire in an object, you can't see it. You cannot visualize the Agni, the fire. If an object does not have fire, you can't see it. You cannot see it. It is because the objects have fire in them, they contain some level of fire. We are able to see it because there's light which is bouncing off, and they are able to absorb the Agni, and they are able to give us a reflection. We are able to see it. So water can also have the other elements. So we can taste it, we can see it, we can touch it, we know, we can feel it, and we also can hear it. It contains the Akash Tattva. What is the Akash Tattva? We spoke about it, ether. It holds everything together. Do you see that water collectively flows? It doesn't disintegrate. The idea of water being a single body and moving together is held together by Akash Tattva. The concept of being held together is Akash Tattva. Separative influences is air, Vayu. Coming together is Akash. So Guru is Akash Tattva. He brings together, keeps together, maintains. Separation occurs due to the quality of air. Okay? So, we spoke about it yesterday. 2 palms held together, there's a cushion of air which is separating it. The body parts inside, they're separated by cushions of air. It's imperceptible, but they are separated. There are so many different things which are just separated by air. The coming together and holding together, say for example, the coming together of a group of people due to the power of a leader is because of his level of Akash Tattva. If he has very high level of ethereal content in him, he has the ability to collect people around him and bring them together and then lend them to a common purpose. It's very important. So, can you, next go to the next element. Can you see fire? Yes, we can see fire. But does fire have smell? Unless it is burning something, fire on its own does not have the quality of smell. Can you taste fire? You can't. There isn't any taste for fire, literally. You can't. So, fire, you can't taste it, you can't smell it. It has two qualities which are below or above, somewhat less than the earth and water. Fire can be seen. Yeah? You can see fire. Can you also feel fire? Yes. If you touch fire, you can feel it. Yes. You can find out that fire can be touched, it can be felt as well. Everything contains the ethereal element. So we're not going to see if fire contains the ethereal element. Now let's go to the air element. Can you see air? You cannot. Can you smell it? You cannot. It can bring odor from the earth. But air on its own does not have any odor. Can you taste air? You cannot. So if you notice that air has qualities which the other elements do not have, it is more subtle. We use the word subtle. Water is more subtle than earth. Fire is more subtle compared to water. Air is more subtle compared to earth, water and fire. It's more subtle, you can't perceive it. Ethereal content is completely subtle. You cannot really perceive it. You can't see it, you can't smell it, you can't hear it, you can't do anything. You can hear it actually, hearing. Because mantras contain ether. Remember we say that, this word has been spoken in ether, it has been spoken in air. When you read Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that there were a vast number of sages in Naimisharanya who had gathered around to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Vast number. Thousands. How is it possible that Sri Sutta Goswami, who was speaking the Srimad Bhagavatam, he did not have a mic? How was he addressing a large assembly of thousands and thousands of people? Have you thought about it? He did not have a mic. How was he addressing a large assembly of sages who had gathered around in Naimisharanya to hear Srimad Bhagavatam? It is because Sri Sutta Goswami had such a high level of ability to penetrate and pass on sound. His ethereal content, his Guru Tattva was so high that when he spoke into the air became subservient and it carried that sound into the ears of everybody who was assembled, even though the assembly was very big and there were many thousands of sages. Can you understand that the whole idea of ether? When someone has a very high level of ether, they have the ability to manage the other elements. All the other elements are subservient to ether. If someone has the power of mantra, they can control fire. Yeah, there are specific mantras to put fire off. There are specific mantras to contain fire. If someone has control over mantras, they can chant mantras and they can control fire. They can bring water, stop water, they can do all of that. They can control the earth in certain ways. So someone who has power is someone who has Akash Tattva, the ethereal element. Then they have control over the other elements. Okay? This is very simple. Now, let's look at the 5 elements again. And I want you to attach these 5 elements to the senses. Very important. The earth element, which sense do you attach it to and what is the organ? Nose? Yeah, sense of smell. The water element, what is the specific sense organ in the body which is attached to the water element? The sense of taste, the tongue. What is the fire element associated with in the body? Eyes, because you're able to see. What is the air element, Vayu, associated with in the body? Touch. Exactly, sense of touch. Now, the 5th element is Akash. That is contained in everything. But what is Akash Tattva? What is the ethereal element associated with as organs in the body? Ears. So, the Gayatri mantra, which the Guru gives, is received in the right ear. It is passed on. So, speaking of the Guru and hearing are all sections that are governed by the Akash Tattva. The mantra of the Guru enters into the ears, the right ear specifically. It's very important for us to understand that listening and hearing are two different things. How is it that some people, when they listen to a class, they develop a deeper understanding, they don't miss a beat, they understand everything? There are some people who attend a class, they can maybe participate 20, 30%, 40%, they give up 60%. They can't really keep everything in their mind, they can't concentrate, they can't do anything. This difficulty of not being able to hear, and I'm not talking about listening, which is practically being able to, hear the sound and not understand it. If you listen, you can just, you can hear something, but the fact of taking what is being heard, transforming it in the heart, and then developing realizations, you need Akash Tattva for it. If that is defective, that person does not have the capacity to assimilate and accumulate knowledge. They don't have the ability to hear and understand and transform knowledge. If some people have a very high amount of that, they have the ability to read, they have the ability to hear, they have the ability to put a vast amount of knowledge together, assimilate it, and then represent it, and for the betterment of others. Okay, now we are clear about 5 senses. We are clear about the 5 elements. Now, these elements, the 5 elements, they are also connected to 9 planets. The 9 planets which are used in Vedic astrology are connected to these 5 elements. We spoke about it yesterday as well. So the earth element is directly connected to Mercury. Mercury is the earth element. So the Mercury, which is the planet of action, the planet of business, the planet of interacting with others and communicating and so on, all of this is associated with the earth element. And then you have the water element. Moon and Venus are 2 planets that are associated with the water element. Okay? Moon and Venus. Moon rules emotions. Venus rules the whole concept of pleasure from relationships. So, both of these are associated with the water element. Now you have the fire element. There are 3 planets that are associated with the fire element. What are those from the screen? You have the sun. Everybody can feel the heat and the light from the sun. And then you have Mars. Mars is all about fire. Germany is ruled by Mars. So there are very good engineers in Germany. Yeah? Germany, you have many engineers, they're very good with engineering is because of Mars. There's attention to detail, planning, and also being able to use fire to transform and make things. So they have a lot of engineering work which is being done in Germany is because Germany, in one sense, is dominated by the Martian element. It is there. That is why it is said that Germans are very methodical, they are very detail-oriented, by training, and also by, I would say, your schooling or whatever it is that you do. All of this is a part of it because Mars is like that. You have a lot of Martian energy. That is why you have Simhachalam here, because Lord Nrsingadev is also Agni, he is Martian. So you have Simhachalam in Germany. You don't have Simhachalam in Italy or Spain or England. You have it in Germany. How did that happen? So Lord Nrsingadev decided to come here because of the nature of people here are dominated by Martian qualities. They do have a Martian demeanor. And that is the reason why there's so much engineering that goes on here in Germany. Yeah, they're good with engineering and stuff. Then, what is air? There are 2 planets that are associated with air. See, Vayu, there is Saturn, and then there's Rahu. Both the planets associated with air are considered to be most malefic. They're considered to be most, I would say, the greatest ability to cause suffering is with the Saturn and Rahu. They both have this air element. So there is always this separative motivation. There's always this extraordinarily separative motivation when Saturn gets motivated and Saturn is involved. Rahu is involved. Rahu because of deviations. You see? Rahu was the personality who motivated Hiranyakashipu to torture Prahalad Maharaj in so many different ways. He was the prime minister in the Asura cabinet. So he was the one who provided all the intelligence to Hiranyakashipu. Do this, do that. He's like that and he's like this. That particular motivation of wanting to cause separation and wanting to manipulate others comes from Rahu. It is the air element. Why are we using air? Because air is separated. You see? There's a cushion of air between your hands. It is separated by influence. So these planets, Saturn and Rahu, have a motivation to separate, not bring together. Then the ethereal element. That is ruled by one planet, Jupiter. What is the Sanskrit for Jupiter? Guru. He is Brihaspati. Brihaspati, the guru of the demigods, the guru of the devas, is the predominant personality who controls the ethereal element. So he is very sattvic, most sattvic amongst all the planets. He is greatly in the mode of goodness. Most sattvic, most beneficent. And what is his function? What does the Guru do? The Guru unites the Atma with Bhagavan. The Guru has the ability to bring all the souls under his care and nurture them and then make them grow. The ability to have a vast number of people and being able to assist a large number of people is Guru Tattva. And being able to direct them, take them and unite them with Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, for example. This is Guru. So people who have performed this function or who have this ability, they will have a very strong Jupiter in their charts. In the astrology chart, they will have a very strong Jupiter because they have the ability to direct the lives of others, give them direction, take them from one side to the other. They have the ability to connect God with the soul. So is this understood? So 9 planets grouped into 5 elements. What does it mean? What does this information mean? Let's look and see what we have here next. Okay? Now, I just want to go from this to a chart. I'll just show you an astrological chart. No, we'll go, no, sorry, I have a different presentation here. See, this is actually a poorly done, I would say, slide, but it will give you an idea. You know, from my presentations, you will probably gather the idea that I'm not much of an artist. So, I'm more of a traditional, I prefer books and speaking, but so I put together something, so you have to forgive me because it's a bit unprofessional. Yeah? Now what does it mean? You've all heard of zodiac signs, right? Everybody has heard of Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, yeah? Virgo, Libra. And how many signs do we have? 12 signs. Why do we have 12 signs? Anybody? Why not 14? Why 12? Because the Lord Sun, Surya, he traverses from one sign to another for 30 days. He traverses through the entire zodiacal sky within 360 days. So the beginning and the end of each sign is marked by the entry of the sun into a sign. So we have 12 months and we have 12 signs, because this is the entry and exit of Lord Surya, the sun. So when each of us were born, if you had to look up on the sky as you lay down as a baby, you would have seen the sky with the 12 zodiacal signs, and in these 12 zodiacal signs you had planets positioned in them as well. Can you visualize that? That the sky is divided into 12 parts. The sky is a circle. It is in reality not a perfect circle, it's an ellipse. Geometrically in English we call it an ellipse. It's not a perfect circle, it is an ellipse. So it's more oblong. It's more like this rather than a perfect circle. And this is divided into 12 parts. So when we look up, we are looking up into the 12 different parts into which the sky is divided. Okay? So this is the zodiacal sky. So when we are born, because the planets control the elements with which we are made of, the elements themselves control the qualities that we have. We spoke about it yesterday. Our emotions, for example, let's talk about the earth element. The earth element controls the ability to act. Literally. The earth element controls the ability to act, because to act you need all the faculties. So the earth element controls the ability to act. So for example, at the time of birth, if Mercury, the planet controlling the earth element, was badly placed, then that person has an inability to professionally act and be successful in their career. Does it make sense? So the element of action is the earth element. The planet controlling that action is Mercury. If he is badly placed in the sky at the time of birth, then our ability to act becomes very minimal because the earth element is defective. People with that particular issue have difficulty in being steady with work, being productive, being able to put things together and be very, being able to move from one place to the other. The Mercury gives you the ability to understand what to do and to have this mind of being able to work professionally. They find it challenging to consistently be able to work. It's not due to health issues, it is more an attitude or internal ability, it's limited. At the time of birth, if the earth element is bad, one can't work properly. At the time of birth, if the water element is bad. So what are the planets? Let's test your memory. What are the planets associated with water? Moon and Venus. So if Moon and Venus, if they're badly placed when we are born in the sky, then if it is the Moon, the person has issues with the mind, they are overly emotional, they are overwhelmed quite easily under emotional stress. Even though they may be intellectual, ultimately all decisions will become emotional because the Moon is not properly placed. They are poor drivers. Their driving skills are quite poor, in fact. The perception of the road is quite poor. Why did I say poor drivers? Anybody? Let's see how intuitive you are. I gave a clue earlier on in the class, just around 30 minutes back. Let's see if you picked up. Why would poor, weak Moon make a person a bad or poor driver?
Is it something to do with relationships, so you're understanding how others are driving?
Let's see. I'm going to give maybe 20 more seconds.
Is it because driving is quite an analytical process, and if you're governed by emotions, or your emotions are taking over, then
No.
Connected with intelligence. It's connected with intelligence.
It is connected with intelligence. You're somewhat close. Like we used to play a game when we were children. So when someone was coming close to the answer, we would say hot, 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 hot. And then they're moving away from the answer, we would say cold, 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 cold. So I can say it's hot, 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 hot. Somewhat close. Yeah. Okay. Do you remember the chariot model? Do you remember the chariot? In the chariot, the reins is connected to the mind. The moon is connected to the mind. So when there's a weak moon, the reins do not have any control. The horses can go any which way. They don't have the ability to hold the reins and drive the chariot in the direction they want. Does it make sense to you? The moon is equal to the mind. That is why emotional problems come if the moon is badly placed in the sky when you're born. When the water element is affected, then they become very emotional. You know, some people become depressed when there's a new moon, when there's a full moon. Years back, when I was a college kid in America, I used to work for a gas station. I was a gas station attendant. And then there used to be a policewoman who was handling all the dispatch, notifications in the local police station. She used to stop by for gas and her things. So she used to be very stressful on new moon days, and I asked her, how's the day today? She says, it's the worst. And she used to tell me that on new moon days, she used to receive the maximum number of crazy calls, crank calls, people needing this, people needing that, all kinds of agitation on new moon days. The new moon is a day when the moon is very, very weak. It's very weak. As a consequence, it has a very negative consequence on the minds of people who have a weak moon in the first place. So if the moon is badly placed in the sky at the time of birth, and then the water element is affected as a consequence, then people have emotional issues. Because the moon also represents the mind, and in our analytical model of the body, the mind is the reins of the chariot. They are not very good drivers. Strong moon, they can drive because they have good control over the chariot. The reins can be held, yes.
That's why the term lunatic.
Yeah, exactly. I think the term lunatic comes from Luna, the moon, yeah. So the tides also, when they fall and they go, because our body, there's a lot of water. So we are quite affected by the movement of the moon. Because there's water in the body, we are also affected by it. But I'm just giving you this example of challenges which people face due to the water element in the sky when you're born. If Venus is badly placed at the time of birth in the sky, then there are relationship problems. They have relationship issues because Venus is badly placed in the sky at the time of birth. So when you look up the sky, you have planets, and the planets control elements. Our behavior at any given time is controlled by the planet. If he is badly placed, then he controls us negatively. If he is well placed, he controls us positively. Does it make sense? If he is well placed, he is going to have no problem. So, our senses, which are controlled by the elements, which are also controlled by the planets, if the planets are badly placed, some senses don't work. Some people need glasses. Some people don't need glasses right until even when they leave their bodies, when they're at the ripe old age. Some people have a very strong ability to hear. Some people lose their hearing pretty soon because the Akash Tattva is so poor that, and you will also find invariably that they have difficulty with all kinds of reading and all kinds of assimilation of knowledge. They don't have the ability to digest things which are very subtle and very sublime by nature. They don't have it. They are not Brahmanical, mostly. They have challenges. Not all the time, but in some cases, most cases. Now, do we notice that, what else did we miss? Fire. If your time of birth, when you look up in the sky, what are the planets which are associated with fire? Sun, Mars, and Ketu. Mars is red fire. Ketu is infrared. It is even more intense compared to Mars. Amongst planets, Ketu is infrared. He is very fiery by nature. So, Ketu's fire and Mars's fire are somewhat aligned. They are almost the same, but Ketu is even more intense. So there are three planets, Sun, Mars, Ketu. If these guys are badly placed in the chart, then it can result in madness, because they can completely destroy, because fire can destroy, we have seen it. They can completely destroy and cause obstructions in the entire process of metabolism, of how people function. It can cause severe issues in terms of just being able to function. Mars and Ketu are fire. Sometimes we call it Pitta. In Ayurveda, it's called Pitta, and then it's called Pitta dosha. Pitta dosha, in literally, is a matter of, can result in an inability to use the faculties of applying the mind and applying the intelligence. Pitta dosha. So we reduce the Pitta, we manage the Pitta through mantras, and so on and so forth. Okay? So if Pitta, Ketu, Mars, they combine together, it's a destructive combination. Sun is normally very beneficial. He is very beneficial. But how many of you have been in Vrindavan during summer? Yes. And you know what the sun can do. So the sun is somewhat beneficial and somewhat he can be strict like a king. The king, he can give us everything, but he can also punish us. The sun is like that. He has both qualities. So when the sun is badly placed, what is the sun associated with in relationships? Father. So they will have problems with the father, they will have problems with authority figures. They will have issues. Sometimes if it is very severe, they can have problems with the government. So if it is badly placed. So the fire element, if it is very badly placed in the body or in the chart, they can have either poor digestion or they can have so much fire that it becomes destructive. They can have so much fire that it becomes destructive. Do you understand now? Any questions so far? Yes, Mataji.
What is when Jupiter,
Guru.
yeah, when he's wrong,
He can also, normally what I've seen is he can also be badly placed. He can be. And if he is badly placed, then it is almost as if, God has forsaken the person in certain ways. It is almost as they struggle through everything. And in some cases, when Jupiter, the Guru, is angry, there can be a lot of fire accidents which can happen in the person's life. Sometimes there can be severe fire accidents because they violate certain principles. When Jupiter is angry, it can cause issues like that. Guru is fire in certain ways. Yes?
You always say it's like when at the time of birth, when you look in the sky, it's like that. But during life, it can also change.
Sorry, can you repeat the last statement?
During life, like the whole life, it can change also.
Of course it can
So
change.
If at birth, like the sun is bad, the moon is good, like in life, it can change.
We have, I'll explain it in a bit. Can things change if they're badly placed? There is scope for managing and bringing about positive change. There is scope. But how much can a person do is also dependent on their karma. Some people have a vast amount of freedom because they are highly situated, they have a vast amount of freedom to act in this world. And they have the ability to change their life in any manner they want. Some people do not have the same degree of freedom. So even if you give them knowledge that this is how you can change it, they don't have the ability to make the change happen because their freedom is very restricted. So, can you change? The answer is yes. Can everybody change? To some extent, yes. But can everybody's change be the same level? The answer is no. If someone is very sattvic, if their habits are in the mode of goodness, they are very sattvic, they have the ability to bring about change. Why so? They have a greater degree of freedom. The higher and higher and higher you go, lesser and lesser and lesser would be the influence of the planets. And that gives you freedom to make changes happen. Okay? Now, let me explain this. I have a different slide. I'm going to go into it. It's almost 11:30, so we'll just do a little bit more. So we went through... yes, Prabhu.
You mentioned that the sun was father and that Mars was attention to detail. What was Ketu?
Ketu is actually quite a strange planet. It provides and gives strange skills. It is very difficult to understand people who have Ketu dominating them because they're constantly receiving information at a subtle level. Their intuition is very high. They receive information at a subtle level, almost like a mystical level. And if they're not smart enough, they really do not know how to represent this information so that others can understand it. So they end up saying things which other people can't understand. People think that they are something wrong with them, but in reality, they are smart. They can understand things, but they understand things at a more mystical and intuitive level, but they lack the ability to communicate and represent it to others. As a consequence, there's misunderstanding. People think, is he something wrong with him? What is he saying? Because sometimes they receive information about something, but they can't prove it. They blurt it out. And others think, what is this all about? What are you saying? It's not possible. It doesn't make any sense to me. Because this Ketu is a strange planet. He does not have a head. He is headless. Do you know how that happened? So when the Asuras and the Devas, they got together and they were wanting to churn the ocean of milk, and the purpose was to bring out a pot of nectar, and this nectar was supposed to give them immortality. The Lord did not want the demons to have immortality because they are very troublesome. He wanted to give that opportunity to the Devas so that they can have vast longevity, they can be beneficial to the rest of the universe. So when the time came to distribute the nectar, this Rahu, he is super intelligent. At that time, Rahu had a head and he had a body all together, one package. He is super intelligent, he is very intelligent. He is, some people, they're deviant but they're very intelligent. He is like that. He had this deviant mentality but very intelligent. He could see what was going on, even the other demons couldn't see. He could see what was going on. His intelligence in one sense is compared to that of the same as Guru, Brihaspati. He is so powerful in his intelligence. So he could see. So he transformed his body like a demigod, like a deva. And he also went and sat next to the devas. He sat next to the sun and the moon. Okay? And he acted as if he was a deva, he was a demigod, so that he could also receive a share of the nectar of immortality. The sun, because of his vision, could see that this fellow was a demon. He went and he made a mistake of sitting next to Surya. And he can't miss anything about Surya. He could see this guy is a demon. Because of his vision, because of his extraordinary vision. And he passed this information on to the moon, who went to the speed of the mind and passed the information on to the other devas. And then Lord Vishnu, he then appears at that point in time. Lord Vishnu is distributing the nectar as Mohini avatar. And see, there was so much deception. The Lord was deceiving others. This Rahu was trying to deceive everybody. Yeah? So that's the nature of the material world. Sometimes you have to be what you have to be to survive. So, anyways, so the Lord decapitated Rahu's head with the Sudarshan Chakra. Because the Sudarshan Chakra cut off the head and came in touch. Sudarshan Chakra of the Lord is not different from the Lord. He is also an expansion of the Lord. When he cut off, the body became liberated, that is Ketu. The head also attained, immortality, so it always existed. So in one sense, so the head and the body were separate. So all kinds of deviant attitude remained with the head. The body became liberated and there was absolutely nothing. So because of that, he developed abilities for intuition and so on and so forth. He existed in the ethereal platform. So this Ketu is headless. He is headless. So sometimes when you see children, you can call them headless because they really are not thinking. They're running around, they're doing this, they're doing that. It's almost as if they're not really using their head. You kind of feel that way. So this Ketu is like that. So the personality who has Ketu dominating him will behave in a manner which other people can't understand because he's not really, using his head, but he's receiving knowledge at a very ethereal, at a higher level. People can't understand it. They can't figure out what it is. They just accept it. Okay? So I train people who come to me with Ketu. I tell them, you can't be understood. So it's very important for you to see who is around, understand the situation, and when you communicate, be sure that people can understand so that you relate to them and tell them things in a manner in which they can understand. When I see them, I educate the person saying, okay, do this. But is it beneficial, Ketu? In some ways, yes, in some ways, no. Ketu, brahmacharis are ruled by Ketu. Yeah. Brahmacharis are ruled by Ketu. It doesn't mean that brahmacharis are headless or they don't operate, but brahmacharis in general are ruled by Ketu because they kind of are in that particular mood of wanting to, I would say, focus more on spirituality. Ketu does the opposite of the moon. What is an eclipse, by the way? You know when you have the solar and the lunar eclipse? The solar and the lunar eclipse is the blocking of the light of the sun and the moon by Rahu and Ketu. When Ketu cuts the moon, lunar eclipse. When Rahu cuts the sun, it is a solar eclipse. So when Ketu cuts the moon, it is basically, the moon also represents society. No father and mother would want to see the son as a brahmachari. Traditional Indian families. Oh, my son, he should not be wearing saffron, he should get married, he should have children, he should have grandchildren. This is the aspiration of a normal parent anywhere in the world, perhaps more in India. So this Ketu, brahmachari, he wants to go in the opposite direction of society. Society is saying, for you to be accepted, you need to be married, you need to have a job, you need to be well situated, you need to have children. This Ketu says, no, I'm saffron. I will be with my guru, I will travel around, I will do some kirtan. The mother can't really accept it. Indian mothers specifically, they have their own plans for the children. They can't really accept it. I want you to get married. No, I want to be in saffron. This is Ketu. He wants to go against the mother, he wants to go against the moon. The opposite of the moon and what the demand of society is. This is Ketu. But Ketu is fire as well. You need fire. So all astrologers have strong Ketu as well. But if they don't know how to handle that Ketu, the other factors which I mentioned just earlier would come to play. Yeah. They would be good with mathematics, but not regular mathematics. There is an abstract nature of mathematics. I did my undergraduate in mathematics, so there is abstract mathematics as well. You know, I spent a whole year studying why the square root of -1 is irrational. So I spent a whole year. I really don't know why I did it, but the point is, that is abstract, very abstract. Astrology is abstract. It is very abstract. It is not an obvious science. You depend so much on your intuition, you depend so much on the sadhana, the mantras, the guru. You really don't depend so much on what you know, you depend so much on, at that particular time, when you come in front of an individual, you then are able to receive information about that individual. It is all a matter of how intuitive a person is. This is Ketu. Mars, on the other hand, is your battle strategist. Great attention to detail. Great. Every step will be well thought of, well thought of, well thought of. What is going to happen next? What is going to happen next? There would be a plan for what is going to happen next. Very, very good. This is required when you are good engineers as well, because you need to really have good project planning. Mars is very good project planning. They're very, very good at all these things. That requires a different kind of fire. The sun, on the other hand, is very dharmic, like a king. That fire of being able to direct others, that authority, is a part of a very, very strong sun. Astrologers in general have a very strong sun as well. The sun, they are attached to the sun. I am attached to the sun, to be honest. I am. You notice that in my screen, you saw a picture of Lord Sri Ram. Yeah, this is the dynamic side of Lord Chaitanya. I couldn't speak about it, though I wanted to keep a session for that, but this is the dynamic side, as Lord Ram is the dynamic side of Lord Chaitanya, with the bow and the arrow. In the Shatbhuj Rupa, the 6-sound form, he has a bow, he has an arrow as well, which essentially means to run this movement, you also need the dynamism of Lord Ram. You also need the servitude of Lord Lakshman, Dasya. You know, that concept is not present in Krishna Leela, Gaur Leela. So for Gaur Leela, that is what is required. So the point I'm trying to make is, Lord Ram is connected to the sun. He was born in the solar dynasty. So astrologers have a great affinity for the sun because you need to see, that Agni comes from it, and it is very dharmic seeing, so that you can direct the lives of others, you can help others. So now is everybody clear that this is the zodiacal representation? The planet above, at the position, at the time of your birth, is going to control your life, and if he is badly positioned, that particular sense organ is defective, because that particular sense organ is defective, the collection of information, the processing of ideas, everything becomes problematic and they can't move forward. Do you understand? So the whole process of purification we engage in involves the purification of the senses and involves the purification at the gross level, physical level, involves purification at the subtle level. Both. So we spoke yesterday that when we offer arati, the arati ceremony is very, very clearly designed to purify our senses while we are pleasing the senses of Krishna. We offer incense. We offer incense. What does it do to Krishna? When we offer incense to Krishna, what does it do? What happens when incense is burnt? It purifies the air. All odors in the air around are removed when you offer incense because you practically purify the air around the deity. When you offer an incense to Krishna, our internal air element is also purified. When you offer a lamp to Krishna, our fire is purified. When you offer bhoga to Krishna, our entire earth element is purified because bhoga contains everything. It's everything. When you offer agya to Krishna, water to Krishna, the water element in our body is purified. The other idea of water, what else is underwater? You have kirtan underwater, music is water. So when you offer music to Krishna, to please Krishna, then our water element is purified. That's the reason why when we engage in kirtan, not only is because it's the most important part is that we are coming in touch with Krishna through his names, but it's also a fact that because it is musically rendered, it has a very calming and very somewhat absorbing effect on ourselves when we walk out of kirtan. Do you feel completely energized when you offer a fire sacrifice to Krishna? Because that fire sacrifice has the ability to reinforce and reignite our Agni, our fire. So our entire process of purifying our senses is associated with the elements, the five elements. The five elements, in one form or the other, is being offered to the deity, and when we offer it to the deity, then that particular aspect of our existence gets purified. Any questions on this so far? Yes, Prabhu.
What's the connection between purifying and an element being badly placed?
What is the connection between purifying and?
Yeah, so if you're saying, for example, someone's water element isn't placed well, but then they're offering water to the deities, does that change the placement for them to improve?
It purifies. It allows you to modify, it allows you to transcend. At the time of birth, the placement of the planets are going to tell you what your karma is at the time of birth that you have inherited from several lifetimes. It is going to tell you what it is at the time of birth after several lifetimes. I'll finish one moment. If you get initiated once, you get initiated twice, and you have been a sincere chanter of the holy names, you have been serving and dedicating yourself to the Guru, your karma would dramatically have changed from the time of birth. So a good astrologer has to account for what is the karma at time of birth, what is the karma at the moment now, before they can reach a conclusion on whether what kind of remedy is required and what kind of help is required. So there are two branches of astrology. There are two branches of astrology which are used. The first branch that we are discussing and we're talking about is called horary. 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 The natal chart, the natal chart. The natal chart is the chart of the person who is born at the point in time. Yeah? That chart has a planetary placement which shows what is wrong and what is right at the time of birth. And then there is the prashna chart. And the prashna chart is a chart which is cast at the time of questions being asked by the client. And that shows what is the nature of karma of the individual at that point in time as a snapshot. So if someone has transpired 40 years here on the planet, then what is it which they have come to 40 years of existence on the planet? What is it they were at the time of birth versus now? Have things changed? Have things not changed? Good astrologers have to do both. Because you can't really make an assumption that the birth chart has remained constant. However, in my experience, 90+% of the cases, the birth chart is good enough because the karma has not changed. In a few cases, you do need the prashna chart. Nevertheless, the attempt is made. The prashna is basically when the client is meeting the astrologer wants to know there is birth karma and what is the karma now? Because they have done some sadhana, they have been initiated for maybe once, twice, and sometimes 3 times. They have the Guru's mercy coming in, so what is it is the result? So one of the ways I use it, for example, is I tell people to do things. And then I tell them to contact me a year later, and then I look to see if things have changed in the birth chart by looking at the present karma a year later as to whether things have changed or not. If they followed my instructions, then I should be able to see that the defects noticed in the birth chart have indeed changed a year down the line. If they followed my instructions in terms of their remedies and mantras and remedies and rituals and so on. So this is a snapshot which is being taken. Yeah. It's like a balance sheet. How many of you are accountants? So you have the income statement and you have the balance sheet. The balance sheet is a snapshot at the end of the month. You just take a snapshot. Where do things stand? What are my assets? What are my liabilities? Okay. Any questions so far on this? Mataji, yes?
You said that when we offer arati, for instance, water, our water element will be purified. Or is this only for the person who makes the arati, or also by the non-arati devotees singing, they are also purified?
Everybody is. If you're participating in arati, if you're participating in the ritual, just as much as people participating in yajna, the person offering the ghee is purified, but then everybody sitting around and participating in the yajna is also purified. In a similar fashion, if the priest is doing arati ceremony, but others are quiet. However, it is not the same level. The priest would experience more because he literally is doing more. It is not the same level. Yeah, it is not the same level. Any other questions, please?
Just a small question. Someone was saying also the flower is also earth, right?
The flower is what?
It represents also the earth element. Flower.
The flower, we generally use the flower in the beginning and in the end, because flower represents Akash Tattva. This is from the basically the Pancharatra. This is from the tantric side. When I say tantric, there's Vaishnav Tantra, where Vaishnav Tantra is how to worship the Naraja Tantratra and all those things. These are all Vaishnav Tantra, which is positive Tantra for worshipping the deity. Tantra is to use physical objects and to be able to know how to protect and how to do things using physical objects. So generally when we use rituals, it falls in that category. So flowers are Akash Tattva. So if you want to remove a blemish, so for example, I start with the flower by offering it at the lotus feet of Guru. I offer the flower to the lotus feet of the deity first. And then I begin the entire arati ceremony so that the atmosphere is cleansed by offering the flower because I'm introducing Akash Tattva. Yeah? Guru Tattva comes in the flower. So flower, even though it has odor, even though it has a nice scent, it can represent other tattvas, but it is taken as Akash Tattva. It is ethereal. Yeah. So, for example, during the marriage ceremony, we notice that the husband or the prospective groom and bride, they exchange garlands. You see, they exchange garlands. So this garland exchanging is also a bond which is being formed. This is a bond of Akash Tattva. There's an exchange of garlands which is also done. You see, this is Akash, ethereal. Because ether is all about bringing people together. So that's why flowers are used as well. Flowers, specifically colored flowers, flowers with color. So they have good quality and good scent. So, yeah. But do they have other qualities? The answer is yes. But do they have the ability to contain all other qualities? The answer is true, because they are Akash also. So the flower, you can see the flower, you can smell it. All of that is true, but it also has the quality of acting as the ethereal element in worship. Both. Yes. Anybody else, please? Any other question before we move on? And I think I'll just like to take a break. I'll stop here, and then maybe 5 minutes, if anybody wants to use the restroom or wants to have a drink of water, then you could gather again in 5 to 7 minutes and we'll get started again. Is that reasonable? I'm taking directions from Prabhu because he gave a suggestion yesterday. So it was valuable. I'm very insensitive. So I don't notice all these things. Nobody wants a break?
No.
Oh my goodness.